Imagine almost 10 years ago, you reach out to a female colleague of yours to find her in tears because on her job interview, she was told that her smile was a problem and they felt like she was coming up with something or conspiring something behind the team's back. Well, that's what happened with Anne Duffy, the founder of Dental Entrepreneur Women, celebrating our 10th year together as a community. And Anne's story with her friend is not unique. I hear those stories all the time from women in the industry, so much so that not that long ago, I actually had a colleague tell me that her boss called her after they were on a Zoom call with the team to ask her if she could look more pleasant on their team video calls because her face made them feel like something was wrong. A lot of times, us women get comments about how our faces look, and I've also had that happen to me countless times as a woman in the industry, and always hearing, Brandi, you really should smile more. You're much prettier when you smile. And I've kind of gotten to the point in my life where I often feel like saying, well, you know what? My face isn't here to serve you. This is my face. Deal with it. Unfortunately, not a lot of women are in those positions to be able to say that. Her friend did not quit her job, but Anne did start a safe space for women to thrive in the dental industry. And 10 years later, with hundreds of members and an annual retreat that sells out with over 250 women each year, is now fully underway, where I'm also a proud member of Dental Entrepreneur Women and will be one of the keynote speakers at this year's retreat. But it didn't start out that way. When I first came to do, I felt like I didn't belong. I wasn't quite sure. And years later, I'm now on the stage speaking at it. And that doesn't necessarily need to be your story, but the story is you belong. And as Dental Entrepreneur Women is celebrating 10 years, this is also the 50th episode of The Real Talk of Dental. And Anne and I are celebrating both of our milestones on this episode, which has been super fun because both of us are committed to creating safe spaces for people to have authentic conversations and to connect. And whether that's together here on The Real Talk of Dental, where I'm in your earbuds or in front of your eyeballs on YouTube, or you're experiencing Dental Entrepreneur Women at the retreat or on the weekly coffee chats or on the Facebook pages or the meetups, or wherever you find women in the industry that belong to do, we're all committed in deeper connection and finding a little more love and joy and safety within an industry that sometimes has people feeling as if they don't belong. Please enjoy this episode with Miss Anne Duffy from Dental Entrepreneur Women. Anne Duffy, founder and creator of Dental Entrepreneur Women, among many other things. Welcome to The Real Talk of Dental. I'm so happy to have you on because this year, DO is celebrating 10 years. And this is also a fun milestone for The Real Talk of Dental because this is episode number 50, which is super exciting. So we're celebrating some milestones, this year or today or this week for me. But 10 years, I mean, I know that you have put your blood, sweat, and tears into building Dental Entrepreneur Women. And now 10 years in, it has taken on a whole different form and a whole different life. And I know a bit about the origin story of when you started it, but not all of our listeners do. And I do think it's super powerful. And also knowing your history and your involvement in dentistry, and you've been at this for a very long time. So I would love to hear you share the origin story of what got you started with creating Dental Entrepreneur Women.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love sharing this story because it is a look back on my past. First of all, thank you for having me on your 50th episode. Congratulations to you, Brandi. You know what? You are amazing. I've listened to your podcast. You're so much fun. It is real talk. And I love how you make your guests feel like we're in a room together and actually probably on a nice hot cup of tea. So continued success to you. And it's been a lovely journey watching you, along with all the women, grow in our field and in their lives. And so, like many of you, I was clinical. I've had 46 years of clinical dental hygiene. And I met Tom when I was going to be a junior at Ohio State in my last year at dental hygiene school, and he was a senior at University of Dayton, and we met at a bar. He stood up, I fell in love, and we moved 10 times before we got to Charlotte. We got married about a year after we graduated, and we moved 10 times with his job. He was corporate in the chemical industry and landed in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I have 6 state boards under my belt. It never occurred to me not to take a state board and not to continue my profession of clinical hygiene. Landed in Charlotte and 3 kids in tow. And Tom came home one day because I'm going to quit my corporate job and I don't want to move the kids again. And I agreed. We love Charlotte. It's beautiful. You haven't been to the North Carolina area. It's a great place to land. And so he quit his job. I thought we'd be millionaires right away because he's really cute, smart, and we had it all. And anyway, about a year and a half in, we were sucking wind. And like literally, we were broke. And I had a patient that told me, and I hope that if you're out there and you feel broke, remember, if you're in the dental profession, you'll never be poor because there's always going to be work for you. And so a patient told me that. It kept me going. And it actually kept me looking at my first side gig. So I had a side gig, 2 days of hygiene, taking the kids to basketball and dance and all those things, and started with a network marketing company called OxyFresh for toothpaste and mouth rinse. And we were talking about strengths before we started, right? So my strengths really line up with a network marketer. I love people. I can talk to a post. And I was actually really successful because I loved the toothpaste and mouth rinse. I thought everybody needed to know about it. So I got in, built the largest team of female dental professionals in the company. And through that, I also did a fresh breast center because the product had stabilized chlorine dioxide. So I had my own fresh breast center in the practice and met a guy on a trade show floor, and he was starting Dental Entrepreneur Business Beyond the Classroom. And he saw me, he reached out to me and said, would you help me sell advertising? Because this professional ad guy didn't sell anything. And I said, sure, I'll try. We were very successful. We launched it. 2 years in, he had no dental passion. He was an editor and journalist for a newspaper in North Carolina. And I said, okay, well, I'll just buy it from you and I'll take it on. So I took on Dental Entrepreneur, Business Beyond the Classroom. And so then I started to meet the people in the marketing because they were selling ads, and then the authors and the speakers writing for Dental Entrepreneur because that was part of the gig. And I noticed that women were not getting the speaking money. They weren't getting the gigs. They weren't getting the promotions. I mean, it was subtle, honestly, Brandi, it was subtle. And then 10 years ago, actually July 16th in 2016, I called my girlfriend, Sue. And just like women, I just was checking in on her. I mean, it was kind of like a God who was person. I wonder how Sue's doing. I haven't talked to her for a while. I'm just going to pick up the phone and give her a call. And I remember it was around 3:00 in the afternoon. This is a long story. I have not told this long story for a while, so I hope your listeners are loving it. I call her up. She answers the phone in tears, and she was crying, really crying hysterically. And that's not Sue. I said, what's happening? And she said her boss had just written in her 360 review that her smile was insincere and it looked like she was plotting something. And I was livid. I was like, that's insane. Sue, you are the most sincere person I know. She was the gal that would put my magazines under her booth, put my extra shoes under her booth, always emailed me back, always returned my calls. And I loved her. And I was like, dang, I'm just going to start another magazine to highlight women in dentistry because they're amazing. They're smart, they're beautiful, they're caring. They love relationships. And honestly, they're not getting their due. And I thought she was going to quit her corporate job. And she was with one of the big 3 and she was the breadwinner. And the next day she's like, I can't quit my corporate job. But in that moment when we were talking on the phone, because I knew the history of Sue, because her mother-in-law was best friends with Mother Teresa. And so I said to Sue, Sue, yeah, so much so that the Pope asked her parents to bring up the gifts at the altar in Rome at Mother Teresa's funeral. I mean, this is like every time she came to the States, she stayed with John's parents. And I said, we'll just dedicate it to Mother Teresa, Sue. We can't go wrong. She's one of the most amazing women in the world, in the history of the world. And that's how we started. So it was really a knee-jerk, hang up the phone. My number 2 strength is activator. So I don't really think about how it's going to happen. I just hung up the phone and said, damn, we're going to start it. And that night on the patio with Tom, and you met my husband, we had a martini. I had my martini in my hand. And I said, hey, I'll just call it Dental Entrepreneur Woman because I already have Dental Entrepreneur. And that was July 16th in 2016, 10 years ago. And you know what, Brandi, it started as a magazine. It turned into a movement. It turned into a membership. It turned into a sold out retreat. And now we've got networking events, and we've got so many amazing women have walked through our door And women give me a lot of credit. Everyone gives me way too much credit. I was mad. My friend was bullied. I opened the door, and you and so many fabulous women have walked through and found a place to rest, found a place that they can share their ups and their downs, their wins, celebrate each other, and have taken a seat at the table. And that is really where we are 10 years later.
Yeah, that's just an incredible story, and I absolutely love it. And I think it's super fun that we're coming up on the exact date and time of this infamous phone call that we'll have to go down and do history. Yeah, and you keep bringing up strengths, right? Which I love, and that's something that I got a lot out of when I first joined Do as well, because you're referring to CliftonStrengths and the Clifton Strengths Finder. And I've now used this a lot even in my coaching work, because when I've taken a ton of personality assessments and things like that, but much to your suggestion, when I took Clifton's Strengths, I, for the first time, really saw like, oh, this is truly what I'm really strong in. And these are the areas where, I mean, I guess they call it the basement, or the areas that I'm not as strong in. It was incredibly validating for me to see that, oh, I am doing the right kind of work for starters, and I'm good at it. Right. And I like even how you said where women can come through the doors and rest. I think even for me, that was part of that initial rest, was I can rest in my gifts and rest knowing that I'm doing the right thing. And also seeing where I can use other people's gifts to help me navigate certain things. Because you and I are very different in our personalities. There's a through line, right? In our passion and our commitment and what we find joy in and what we see, but then how we respond to it is different. So you are that activator, you are out there marketing and networking, and like you said, needing people to handle you because you're just all over the place. And I'm really, really strong in the input, like taking in information, the strategic thinking, the individualization, which is customizing everything unique to everybody. I suffer from analysis paralysis sometimes, where I overthink things. I'm really studying stuff. I'm really trying to make sure that I have the full picture. Like I need all of the information, and you're just like, go, right? So it's really interesting and fun to see how the different personalities either mesh or don't mesh, or where you're strong or where you can benefit from having support. And that's something that when people join Do, that's almost part of the initiation now, is finding out what your Clifton strengths are so you can really navigate the space, I think, in a really cool way. Hey, I just want to pop in on today's episode and talk to you about this new GPT I wrote called Boundary Boss GPT. And it's for those moments where you've said yes to something and immediately felt that pit in your stomach, or maybe you've now written 5 drafts of an email because you're trying not to sound mean, even though you're exhausted and you swear you've said this thing so many times to the same person, or you're kind of sick and tired of staying late, taking it on, smoothing things over, and wonder why you're the one that's always burning out. A lot of the conversations that I have on this podcast, we often hear about people hitting these walls of burnout and oftentimes not even knowing what to say. So that's why I built Boundary Boss GPT. It's kind of like having me in your pocket when you're about to respond to a text, email, or team issue, and you just don't know what to say because your people-pleasing brain is completely hijacking you. This is going to help you have clarity, confidence, and self-respect without the guilt, over-explaining, or the drama. Go ahead and grab it in the show notes below. It's totally free, and you're going to love it. Okay, now back to this awesome conversation. How'd you fall in love with Clifton Strengths?
That's an interesting question. A lot of people think I had just taken it and I knew it was about, work. No, I took it 20 years ago. That was another, we were at a cocktail party and they had 4 openings at this team meeting. It was a 6-week program, an hour and a half. So I dragged Tom, my husband, and 2 of our adult kids. I think Joe was home from college and Kate had just graduated, and to this Strength Finders course 20 years ago. But it changed my life, because when I took it, it was actually, this is, this is interesting, I think. The guy that started it, Don Clifton, was a devout Christian. And so I took it at the church. So it was not about business. This was God-given. These are talents from God that you have in the womb. And you were given these talents, and you're not supposed to bury them. You're supposed to put knowledge and experience it and grow it. And so that was just something really interesting. And to your point about knowing your strengths. What it did for me is I quit begging Tom to go back to corporate. You can understand. I was a great corporate wife, right? I was like, oh God, now I gotta make money. Now I gotta work harder. But he was an entrepreneur. I mean, his strengths came back like, oh, and quit pushing him to do something that he's not meant for. And the same way with our two kids, with Katie, quit putting that square peg in a round hole. So it made me realize that everybody has gifts. And I, with my gifts, I thought, oh, this is what I should lean into. This is what I'm good at. It kind of validated that I had gifts. I mean, a lot of times you go through life and you think, I mean, like people would say, my grandmother used to say, she's smiling so big. And I'm like, okay. And so I would actually try not to smile so big, but then with positivity, you smile all the time. And so then I'm like, oh, dang, I'm just going to smile as big as I can because that's a gift. And it just kind of validated. And that's funny. And I love my grandmother. She was awesome. And she didn't mean it in any negative way, really. But I really fell in love with myself for who I was made to be. And then I put myself, it's on rocket fuel when you fall in love with what you're good at. Just like you, like you kind of just let go of like, I'm not a woo. So therefore I'm okay not meeting everybody in the room. And for me, I laugh about it like, hey, listen, if you go to a party with me, don't be mad at me because I'm going to meet everybody at the party and you're going to be left at the front door. So then it's just one of those things that you just have to own it. And the assessment doesn't lie. It's really a performance assessment. It's not a personality. It's performance, how you act, how you
show up,
work and show up in the world. Yeah. And so that in that moment, honestly, Brandi, and I kind of forgot about this, in that moment when Sue and I were on the phone, I said, I want to bring love to dentistry because I was hurt for Sue, and I love Sue, and I loved all the other people, and I love everybody, right? So and love, and then strength finders, because to me that was really important. And so that was 10 years before I started and we ended up with Gallup coaches on the first retreat, and it's been eye-opening, and I think it's been a gift for others, and I think it's what I'm meant to do. So I think all women want a calling. They want to know what the purpose is, and I think that also helps you find your purpose in life, and you can chase that instead of trying to always fix your weaknesses. And the other thing I wanted to mention, it's the balcony is not the weakness. The balcony is, the basement. The basement, there's a balcony of every strength and a basement of every strength. And so when you want to stay, you need to know that, because when you get into the balcony, like you were just saying, I analyze everything, and I keep going down that rabbit hole. Sure you do, because you're a learner and you're input. You can't get enough information. And that's why you and I would work well together, because you're going to go get the information and I'm going to go and just, spread it to the world.
Yeah.
So you have other gifts and they're beautiful, and I have other gifts and they're beautiful too. So, I think that's just a great confidence builder.
Yeah, and especially in today's day and age where everyone compares themselves to other people, it's impossible not to, because we're just exposed to everybody's lives through social media these days. And I was even on a call earlier this morning where, I was talking with a gentleman, but he was saying how, something that he's working on is trying to help people feel less alone, which is something that I'm committed to also, because we tend, and we know this, that we compare ourselves to other people's highlight reels, and we know it's not always the full picture, but our minds are still thinking that it is, right? We still can't get over that we're kind of being duped into thinking that's their everyday reality. He even compares himself to this male influencer and how he navigates relationships and things like that. And he's like, and I consciously know, like, behind the scenes, it's not truly what he's saying it is. And we also are comparing our strengths, right? So I think that's like kind of the tricky part, is if you recognize, like, I'm not going to be an Anne Duffy, like, in how you work a room, right? Like, I'll work a room a little slower and a little more strategic.
And very intentionally, which is
very
lovely.
intentionally. Yeah, and slow. And so you and I might go to the same event, and you might leave with 100 phone numbers, and I might leave with 5, but 5 very clear people that I know I'm going to follow up with, that I'm going to pursue, and things like that, and build something or collaborate with them or something like that. But if I'm always if I didn't know that about myself, right? Like, if I didn't know that this was how I show up, or this is how I perform, and I just go in and I'm comparing myself to you. And just as an example, right? Yeah, if I'm comparing myself to you, I will feel like, maybe I don't belong here, or maybe I'm a fraud, or maybe I shouldn't be doing this kind of work, or whatever. We're just so mean to ourselves sometimes. We have all this self-doubt. And so I think that's something that's so cool about the Clifton Strengths is that, oh no, this is in line with who I am. This is how I show up. This is the kind of work that I do. And we can have similar passions. We can have similar desires. We can have similar friends and colleagues. We can like to be in the same rooms as each other, but we're just going to show up a little bit differently. And I think that's cool.
Yeah, and the thing is, Brandy, that there's 34 strengths that pop out, and they're all great.
Yeah.
Like, believe me, when you tell me what your strengths are, I have strengths envy. I'm like, dang, I wish I was strategic. It doesn't even show up until like midway through my 34. But we're made perfectly the way we're
Mhm.
supposed to be, on purpose, for a purpose. And everybody's got something special. And that has been the joy of my life with Do, is being able to share those stories, because a lot of times I'll get on a call with women, and like, we're a media company, so we love sharing your story. We have the magazine, we have blogs and stories throughout the website and all that. But I mean, like, I'll get on the phone with a woman and she'll be like, oh, I don't really have anything special. I don't really have a story. And you start talking, I'm like, dang, your story is so amazing. And you are special. Everyone is. And if we could just have the whole world know that they're special, exactly how they were made, and they just have to build on that and the goodness of that, I mean, the world would just really be a better place, and everybody would think the key. At the end of all this, at the end of our careers, right? We can look back and say, it was a great ride and it was a wonderful career, versus, God, I hated every minute of it. And now I can't wait to retire. And what? I mean, it's like, no, I mean, I really, the other thing is, I wanted to keep amazing women in dentistry. They were leaving. And I'm like, no, there's got to be a spot for you. And so how do we do that? How do we keep women together? And I think a lot of it is sharing stories. And it's so funny, if we had all strategic people in one room, it would be quiet, because they'd be learning
It would be a
the whole.
nightmare. It would be a nightmare.
Could you imagine if you had all
No one
woo?
would execute.
Yeah, I would be like, yeah, we just all sit there like, oh my God. So, I think that is just so fun that we've learned
Yeah.
to acknowledge the differences in each other and how special that can be. It's just a gift. And I want to also shout out to the dudes out there. So we have 306 dudes. And it reminded me of the podcast I listened to the other day with your guy that was doing the dental assisting school.
Wayne?
Oh, Wayne, yes. And I thought, well, he's a dude, because the dudes, and it's DEWD, lowercase d, those are men that support women in dentistry. And a lot of the guys were like, I want to be in do. I'm like, I'm sorry, it's just for women, but we love you. We can't live without you. I love men. Tom and I are married 50 years, and he's my buddy, and our sons are awesome. And so it takes all of us to get together, but there is something, and it is principle number 4. The answer is in the ladies' room. There's something about women getting together and sharing what's on our hearts and our minds in a room of women that kind of get it. It's a thread, the common thread of being a woman and the common thread of being a toe dipped in dentistry. Pretty special.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that it's still preserved for women. So the event itself is women only, which I
Mhm.
love. And my story too with my first time there. I went and I didn't think I fit in. I felt like I was really out of place and it was really hard for me. And I historically, I had a very, very, challenging relationship with my mom growing up and my sister. My mom passed away when I was young. And so I have all this sort of trauma for sure around nurturing energy with women. And then of course, throughout life, I was also an athlete and things like that. There was a lot of competition and competitiveness. And I think a lot of women have many stories about being around other women and having it not be supportive and having it be toxic. And actually, my husband was talking with me recently about his workplace, and it's predominantly women in the area that he's at. And he asked me, he said, God, Randy, he's like, some of these women, he's like, they're so mean to each other. And the stuff they say, he's like, where do you think this comes from? And then I had my whole, spiel ready to go as to why. But it's true, and it still exists, and we'd be lying to ourselves if we're saying, oh, all women love other women. That's just not true. And a lot of us have been pinned against each other intentionally. And then, of course, the system in which we live, we've been trained and developed to compete. And there's a lot of core systemic stuff that we can get into that, maybe through another podcast. And then I walked in and I didn't have this abrasiveness about me. It was just this like, I don't know if I belong here. I don't know if I'm enough. I don't know. A lot of these women seem to know each other. I feel really uncomfortable. And I think one of the things that's so cool about you and your gifts is that you're also incredibly open to feedback and you're willing to pivot really quickly. And I think after the year I went is when you started the mentorship program, right? Where
Mhm.
you match people up, new dues, the doobies with
The doobies, yep.
with the existing dues. And I was like, yes, do that, because it was at least having a person to connect with when you're just navigating this space with hundreds of women, for the first time. It can seem really overwhelming, but what I really want to convey is that there is a place for you. So even if you are somebody that feels like, I don't know, hundreds of women gathering together, like that just scares the hell out of me, that seems crazy, like I don't know if I can handle that. Coming from somebody who had initial experience, it ended up being an amazing event for me. And the first day was hard. I was like, I don't know how I feel. And what's funny, the story, as you know, is by the end of the event, right, when we had the cocktail party and stuff like that, I had on my black dress and my shoes and my gold necklace. And then I'm walking around, and there were two other women that had the exact same black dress, the exact same shoes, the exact same necklace design. And I thought, oh my God, I belong here. For whatever reason, like that clicked with me, because I was really hung up on like what I looked like and was I wearing the right stuff, and everyone else is in sort of flashy clothing for that, reception. And I was just in my little black dress, kind of blending in. And then I found these other women, and all of a sudden it was like, oh, okay, they have the same dress. And this dress was from Nordstrom Rack from like 10 years ago. It was an old dress. It wasn't even like anything more, nice or fun or whatever. And I just couldn't believe that we found each other. But there is a seat for you. There's all different kinds of women there, and you will find your pocket of people. Like, don't go trying to win over 250 women. Like, you will find your pockets, and that's what I've seen blossom for myself, but then also other people too. Like, I can see it. I can see other communities and groups of dues online that really connected and really resonated, and they're doing stuff together. And I don't feel any kind of way about it. I'm like, I'm excited for it and happy for them, and also understand it, because then I have my little pocket.
Yep.
There's just these little groups that grow over time. So that's just my kind of spiel to anyone that's intimidated by the idea of, hundreds of women gathering in one
Yeah.
space.
No, come. Well, that's the universe telling you, like, it's okay when two other women had the exact same 10-year-old Nordstrom dress on that you had. So that's the universe. And I have seen you blossom since I met you. And I don't know how many years is that? Was that 3 years ago or 4 years ago?
My fourth, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
this
yeah,
retreat.
you have blossomed. You know now you belong in any room you decide to go into, Brandi. I know that about you now. And that's the thing, that you're not alone. We've all had those things that if, I mean, I've had women, I mean, I remember crying for 6 months one time as an adult, 41, when the women in my neighborhood were just so mean to me. And they're not friends of mine now. I mean, how we move so many times. So 2 years in, you finally find your friends. And I'm like, oh my God, they don't like me. Who doesn't like me? I was like, dang, I was happy. But I tell him and I laugh about it. I literally cried for 6 months, and he was so tired of hearing about it. Now I'm like brushing that stuff off, because that's a waste of time, is not feeling that like you belong.
Yeah.
Everyone belongs, but you have to know that in your heart, and know that, and the other thing I will say, you dipped in.
Yeah.
You showed up. You just didn't go and then leave it, like I checked that box. Oh, I went to the do retreat. No, you have shown up, Brandi, and you have found, and there's so many more women that kept coming, finding us now. Wait till
Hmm.
you meet some of these women. Like, you think, and you have women. And I remember thinking at one point, even when I joined OxyFresh, I said, somebody said, oh, some of your best friends will be here. I'm like, I don't need any new friends. I have plenty of friends. And then you find them, and it's like, it's so cool. And especially in our circles of dentistry, every woman, I mean, look at you, you're coaching all these women and men in dentistry, but aren't you finding new people all the time that are just like super cool? It's like, where have
Yeah.
you been? And especially when we're either running a practice or we are remote with our work and we're in our own home offices or whatever, it's lonely. And sometimes you have to have somebody, you just got to call somebody and say, hey, am I thinking clearly here? Or can you help me? And you know that you can pick up the phone and call a do at any time. Oh, there's so many things I want to talk about. That whole thing with the three in the middle of honor people in your absence, no gossiping, be kind, don't be a jerk. That I love that principle because that is, saying I'm sorry, saying I love you and I forgive you is free. So I love that. And I got those honestly from Pope Francis. And the last one is give people the benefit of the doubt, no judging. And I would think if we can do that, I mean, and I believe that it's important to abide by the principles here because you can go down that rabbit hole of gossip. I mean, I get it. I know if you're listening and you are a do or you're a woman listening, tamp it down. If somebody starts that gossiping, and I've seen this happen every once in a while, I'm like, and I get into it too. Hey, listen, let's change the subject or let's move on. And I think if we can do those things and be a representation to what's good in this world, because that doesn't help anybody. And that's not right. It's just really not right to do. Anyway, I'm on a soapbox there for a second. I
Yeah.
just
No.
gotta, but
I understand. Yeah. Yeah. It's
yeah.
this idea of elevating one another. And I think that's something that's been very cool to see your commitment to, and then also the board and like the community that you bring in to support Do Now. It's really looking at elevating all of us and in one way or another. And if we don't have anything to contribute, I feel like people just step aside or don't get involved. And I think there has been, I mean, the fact that you're going on 10 years and it's getting bigger proves the point of how well you've curated this space and how careful and intentional you and the people around you have been in building this movement, because this is something that could have easily imploded. You know what I mean? If you weren't super clear on the vision that you had and how you wanted it to feel and what you wanted the experience to be. And the essence of it, I think, is really clear. And that's what's kept me coming back for sure, is the essence, the energy around it, the bigger intention. And I think that's been something that anyone that speaks about Do that has continued to show up over the years, it's just like, oh, you got to go. Like, yes, of course you need to join Do. You need to be there.
But again, it is because of you. It's because of the women that walk through the door. And the other thing I want people to know that there's a season for everything. You might just want to come for just a while. Just come for a while. And if you decide you want to not be here, then but the seat will always be open for you.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the other thing. It's like I have people that women will say, oh, I'm like, now it's the time. I've been wanting to join. And and I said, come because it just might be the right time for you and we'll love on you. But it's not it's just not me. It's honestly the women that keep coming through are just have that heart and they're willing to help. And I think in general, women love great relationships. And, we're just lucky that we're in a great career profession, I guess, that has amazing people in it. I think people try to leave dental, but they come back, right?
Yeah, it keeps you, you keep getting sucked in. Before we kind of wrap up, I mean, I am curious, 10 years later, and I'm sure all year you've been reflecting and in preparation for the retreat this year, but what has been some of the biggest things you've noticed that's evolved from the community of women in Do?
I think like you, when I see women working together, collaborating with each other, meeting up at meetings, a helping hand, that just really, I'm proud of the women that are there that are doing that. I just feel like, it's funny because I had no strategy on this. I had no desire that I was going to run a big movement for women in dentistry. Again, I just, I just start stuff and, hope it, and throw stuff against the wall and see if it sticks.
You're an accidental influencer. You had no idea.
Totally. And I always say this, I'm an accidental entrepreneur as well, because I just, never think, and I don't even the future of it. I just want it to continue because I feel like it's valuable and I know it will. Not because of me, but because of the women that are in line that just keep coming in. So I'm so happy for everybody that has had a chance to be in the community. And it's funny, but I used to hope that women would join Do, and now I'm actually like, if you don't join Do, you're crazy, because you're gonna meet Brandi, and she's gonna help you, and she's gonna be there for you, and you're gonna meet all the other just incredible women that I keep meeting on a regular basis because they find us now. It has always been organic, but they're finding us and saying, hey, what's this about? And I'm meeting them. I'm like, oh my God, you're so incredible. Come sit at the table. So I think it's pretty easy. Our bar is high from an ethics standpoint. And that's that's just because, like your husband was saying, we just can't put up with that women putting down other women,
Yeah.
and we'll never get ahead. And that's been historically what is they've had to fight for the seat at the table. And now there is no fighting. There's just joining and lifting each other up. So, I just hope it continues that way. And I don't know where it's going to go, except we keep putting new things in. I've got a great team and they take care of me. I've got a lot of handlers. And so,
You have a great team. You have an incredible team. And Anne, is your primary thing now, right? I mean, is everything, yeah, you're
now, oh
100%.
yeah, I'm so excited because I actually I'm partnering with Ryan Vet on Dental Entrepreneur. So he's helping me with Dental Entrepreneur now. So I've got that kind of like, okay, Ryan, you help, I'll help you. He's taking the lead on that. So no, do's enough, Brandi, because I mean, like a lot of people say, when are you retiring? I'm like, I don't know why I would retire from this right
Yeah.
now, because it's just like it's part of my DNA, and I just really don't want to play bridge and mahjong with all my bunco buddies. I love them dearly, but it's just not my thing. So yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of gas left in the tank for
yeah, a
you,
lot
that's
of
for
gas
sure.
and again, purposeful. But I want
Yeah.
everyone to find their purpose. You know what yours is. You're all gonna. Hey, listen, even if you're not, you'll be in a nursing home someday, maybe, and you will be coaching everybody in that nursing home that you meet, because you cannot help yourself because you're so good at it. And that's just who we are, who we're meant to be. So we're using our talents, Brandi. And so, using our talents, and it's a sweet spot to be in. It's a sweet spot. I
I
wake
love
up
it.
every morning and I'm like, okay, what are we doing today? And, all I have to do is get on the phone with somebody and, I'm like, oh, okay, now I feel better. It doesn't, pretty easy,
Yeah.
pretty easy.
Well, Anne, thank you so, so much for your time today. It's been such a blessing for me to be part of the community that you've created and all the women that gather around your table, which has been so fun.
Our table, please. Come on now, our table.
Yeah, thank you so much. It's been awesome, and I can't wait to be at the retreat this year. I'll include all the details on how folks can register for that this year. It's an awesome experience. There is a seat for anyone who's interested in joining, and congratulations on 10 years. It's epic. So
You
way to
so
go.
much. Well, congratulations on your 50th podcast, and launching your coaching business has just been remarkable to see. And I feel like, even though just by knowing you, I feel like I get coached every time I see you. So, you've got a true gift there, and I'm honored to know you and to continue this journey with you.
Thanks, Anne. You just listened to the Real Talk of Dental. If it hit, if it stung, if it made you feel just a little more human, good. That's the point. This isn't about fixing practices, it's about healing people. And if you're brave enough to show up real in this industry, you're my kind of leader. Subscribe, call in, send your wildest workplace confession. And most importantly, don't clean up for anyone. The mess, that's where the magic lives. We'll see you again on the next episode.